In a new lawsuit, Sean Diddy Combs' second son, Christian Combs, is accused of sexually assaulting a crew member working on a super yacht. That suit was filed here in Los Angeles. Attorneys representing former yacht stewardess Grace O'Markey say she was sexually assaulted on board a yacht when she was 25 years old in December of 2022 by Diddy's son, rapper Christian Combs. They say his dad, Sean Combs, leased the yacht and had full control of its staff and the premises. O'Markey's lawyers say Combs turned what was sold as a wholesome family excursion into a hedonistic environment. They stated, quote, defendant Sean Combs fostered and encouraged an environment of debauchery. There was always a party atmosphere filled with suspected sex workers, suspected laced alcohol, violence, and sheer disrespect of women and the yacht's crew. The lawsuit also contains photos of bruises that O'Markey's lawyers say she suffered when Christian Combs violently grabbed her and attempted to force her to perform a sex act. They also included a transcript of an audio recording which they say captures O'Markey being forced to consume suspected laced shots of tequila.
Now a son of embattled music mogul Sean Diddy Combs has been accused of sexual assault. A lawsuit filed in LA Superior Court on Thursday accuses Christian King Combs of sexually assaulting and possibly drugging a woman in December 2022. The woman says it happened while she was working on a yacht that Diddy had chartered. This comes just over a week after homes owned by Diddy were raided in LA and Miami as part of a federal human trafficking investigation. Neither the attorneys for Combs or Diddy have commented on the new legal complaint.
In the midst of a solemn federal court hearing in Los Angeles, packed with dozens of reporters, attorneys, and prosecutors, no one expected the name Christian Combs to be suddenly dropped cold and sharp by the plaintiff's lawyer. We have evidence that Christian Combs, son of Mr. Sean Combs, attended parties where underage individuals were present, the attorney declared. In a split second, the courtroom fell into stunned silence. Cameras swiveled, flashes burst, and Christian, who had been quietly sitting in the gallery, immediately stood up. Without waiting for his lawyer to speak, without a word to his family or assistant, Christian Combs, the young rapper and a familiar face at fashion events, silently walked out of the courtroom. That silence triggered chaos. Several reporters rushed out behind him. He didn't say goodbye, didn't glance back, didn't even show a hint of confusion. Just the urgent footsteps of someone who clearly sensed something terrifying was coming.
What role do you think it's possible Christian Combs could play in his father's criminal case?
The government loves superseding indictments. The government loves indicting your relatives. Why? Nothing is worse. Right now, Diddy's sitting in a jail cell. What could be worse? The thought of your son also sitting in a jail cell.
I think that if we're talking about additional charges and additional defendants, those are probably two of the more likely. And Christian, of course, was the subject of a civil lawsuit where there was a sexual allegation naming him directly.
The government in this indictment presented evidence alleging that Sean Combs was running a criminal enterprise, and they actually named it in the indictment, the Combs Enterprise.
What shocked the media wasn't just the allegation, it was how Christian withdrew from the situation. It didn't feel like a normal defensive move. It felt tactical, quick, unexpected, and entirely unscripted. A veteran journalist from the New York Post even commented, "I've seen plenty of celebrities put on performances in court, but I've never seen anyone exit the scene like that." Almost instantly, entertainment blogs began speculating. Had Christian been tipped off beforehand? Did his legal team know what was coming and choose to have him leave before the accusations became public? Whatever the reason, his sudden exit became the center of conversation on Twitter. Within hours, #ChristianCombs was trending. And that was just the opening act to a storm of explosive revelations waiting to erupt behind the glitzy curtain of the Combs family.
I was upgraded from my last whore. Risha, Keisha, and Joy. And I ain't tripping if you didn't enjoy.
Shut and Murray.
I would lock 23 and 1. And 1. Now I ball like 23 and 1. And 1.
No, check up in that shit and all that.
Right now he getting practice shots. You know what I'm saying? He getting practice shots because we got the legend in the building.
Yeah, you already know what it is, man.
Christian Combs. King, the one and only.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna get right into it though. Music. That's good.
Yeah, I got my new music, Legacy, dropping. It's about to be crazy.
When is dropping? Let us know. Let us know some exclusive
info. October 15th. Right. When you see this, you know it might be out.
Nah, you gonna see it tomorrow. He working hard. This dropping tomorrow.
And Cardi's dropping soon. It's gonna be a visual.
But I keep it real. Ever since we've been in LA like 4 years, we've been running to you, like hearing that, see you grow, like from developing like artists to like just being cool. At first we met you, like we just knew you was cool. Then you start dropping music.
In Hollywood, it's normal for a celebrity to have a massive support team. But Combs Enterprise, a name unexpectedly cited in a federal indictment, was described not as a typical business entity, but as something more structured, with clear objectives and behaviors resembling a criminal organization. This was no longer just a story about a record label or an entertainment company. It was about a network allegedly built to throw wild parties, cover up abuse, and manipulate media to bury the truth. Sean Diddy Combs has long been known not only as a hip-hop legend, but also a savvy businessman. He owns Bad Boy Records, home to legends like Notorious B.G., along with the iconic Ciroc vodka line and the Sean John fashion brand. But behind the spotlight was a deeply secretive operation, believed to have been running quietly for years without detection. The name Combs Enterprise surfaced in the indictment as a shadowy network where power, wealth, and desire intersected.
There's a whole public relations side of this. Diddy is going to want to put up a front of an innocent person. And sometimes the best defense is a good offense. Right now, investigators are going through the evidence that they seized. What they're really looking for are videos of the alleged sexual abuse. If prosecutors have that information, we're talking about days or weeks before Diddy is charged. He may go to prison for the rest of his life.
According to details uncovered in the investigation, this network allegedly leveraged a wealth of resources, luxury yachts, beachfront villas, private security teams, VIP guest lists, and PR squads trained to kill scandals to host exclusive, private parties for insiders only. These events were said to involve drugs, mysterious cocktails with chemical odors, and at times, the presence of individuals under the age of 18. And one name stood out as a regular fixture at these gatherings: Christian Combs. Christian wasn't just Diddy's son, he was a rising rapper with close ties to models, influencers, and young Hollywood hopefuls trying to break into the scene. His connections made him both a magnet and a gatekeeper, someone deeply embedded in the party culture that surrounded the Combs name. Even more disturbing were anonymous sources claiming that some of these parties were secretly live-streamed to private groups within the ultra-wealthy elite. Rumors swirled that virtual invitations were sold for tens of thousands of dollars to powerful individuals who wanted to watch, but not be seen. This raised a chilling question. If true, was this just an exclusive party network or something resembling organized criminal activity? As more details about Combs Enterprise came to light, the public couldn't help but draw parallels to Jeffrey Epstein's infamous network, where wealth and influence acted as a shield for unspeakable acts. And the fact that federal investigators had gone so far as to label this group with a formal name signaled something major. They no longer saw this as isolated incidents. This was a system, a force, an empire unraveling from within.
I think that if we're talking about additional charges and additional defendants, those are probably two of the more likely. And Christian, of course, was the subject of a civil lawsuit where there was a sexual allegation naming him directly. So I think if we're going to cast a bit of a wider net, people are talking about family members, other celebrities, maybe some employees like Christian Afora, but I think the most likely would be those two sons.
Why do you think it's the most likely about those two? Just because of the recordings, the allegations against him? What are you thinking?
I think so. I think obviously they're just civil allegations and those cases are going to be put on hold while the criminal case plays out. But, there is some smoke there. And obviously, there's a presumption of innocence and there's a lower standard in a civil case. But you have someone who's been named directly as someone who participated in a sexual assault. And everything else has been rumors and speculation. But here you at least have one verified complaint.
The name Grace Markey meant nothing to the public before December 2022. She was just a freelance service worker, taking seasonal contracts and occasionally working aboard luxury yachts for wealthy clients. But within a few months, her name became the centerpiece of a lawsuit that could reshape the entire image of the Combs family, especially Christian. According to court documents filed in Los Angeles, Grace claimed she was hired to work a supposedly family-oriented trip chartered under Sean Combs' name. All initial signs pointed to a lavish vacation with a relaxed itinerary ideal for a famous family. But once aboard, Grace said she realized she had stepped into a hellish party. According to the complaint, the yacht wasn't a place for relaxation, it was a no-limits party hub. The guests on board, including models, singers, and influencers, were described as wearing barely their outfits, while hard liquor flowed nonstop, some drinks giving off strange chemical smells. Grace wasn't alone in her claims. The lawsuit included photos showing bruises on her arms, neck, shoulders, allegedly the result of an assault by Christian Combs.
Focusing on Christian Combs. Well, Markey says that Christian Combs had been staying at a villa on the shore, but that he would come onto the yacht in the evening to party. And on December 28, 2022, Christian reportedly arrived very intoxicated and then proceeded to pressure Markey to take shots of tequila. She did. Christian allegedly tried to get her to drink more in the yacht's makeshift studio. Markey alleges that Christian kissed her neck, kissed her face, as he groped her legs, breasts, and private areas. Markey reportedly told Christian, quote, "Excuse me, you don't touch my legs like that. I'll move my legs where I want to. If I want to do this, then I will. You don't touch my legs like that." Markey then says that she told Christian she couldn't stay with him unless it was approved by a supervisor, all of whom she knew would be asleep at the time. So this was a way for her to get out of the situation. She claims that Christian said, "Who can I talk to? I'm going to say I requested you right now." Markey then says she responded with, quote, "Well, you can take your hand off my ass for the first thing."
He pressured me to drink. I said no, but he just laughed and said, "Come on, it's on the house, my family's treat." After a few drinks, Grace said she began to feel dizzy. That's when Christian started touching her, first her hand, then her thigh, then her chest and neck. Things escalated quickly. Grace tried to push him away. In the recording, her voice trembles as she recalls, "I told him, don't touch me." He didn't listen. I had to use all my strength to shove him off and run. I was panicking. According to the filing, Christian later followed her to the yacht's movie room, repurposed as a staff sleeping area, and tried to block the door, continuing to pressure her. What drew even more public attention was the fact that Grace wasn't the only one who had worked on the Combs family's yachts. Several former staff members reportedly reached out to her legal team, claiming similar behavior had occurred in the past, only no one had dared to come forward. One even stated, on that yacht, if you weren't famous or a close friend of the host, you were just part of the game, and that game had no rules.
So Markey, Jones taped this event with her. Yes, the lawsuit provides transcripts of audio recordings, and these audio recordings purportedly show, or you can hear, kissing sounds, her telling Combs not to touch her, her allegedly asking about whether she was drugged. Now, we haven't heard these tapes here on Law and Crime yet, but if they are what they purport to be, that is a huge piece of evidence. And remember, when we're talking a civil case, when we're talking lawsuits, the burden of proof is much lower than a criminal case. It's just preponderance of the evidence, more likely than not that this happened.
Grace's lawsuit wasn't just a personal accusation, it was the opening crack in a much larger facade. Her testimony pulled back the curtain, revealing a web of power that, for the first time, was being forced to confront something it long believed untouchable: accountability. From the outside, the Combs family had always symbolized success, glamour, and dominance in American entertainment. Sean Diddy Combs, the music mogul who helped shape hip-hop culture over 2 decades, frequently appeared on red carpets with his sons at his side, presenting them as heirs to a legacy. Christian Combs, often dubbed the Prince of Hip-Hop by the media, was the son of Diddy and model Kim Porter, who passed away in 2018 under mysterious circumstances. Raised in the limelight, Christian was immersed in luxury fashion, exotic cars, and high-profile connections from a young age. But the truth few people saw was that growing up under the shadow of such an empire wasn't all glamour. Since the age of 16, Christian had been sent to elite events, from Paris Fashion Week to the MTV Awards, not just as a guest, but as a living extension of his father's brand. In one interview on Revolt TV, Christian once said, "I'm expected to be the younger version of my dad." It sounded humble, but hinted at immense pressure beneath the surface. That pressure seemed to surface through minor scandals Christian had been involved in. In 2021, tabloids caught him partying all night with a group of friends, including his brother Justin Combs, at a Miami villa. A leaked video showed Christian allegedly smoking what appeared to be marijuana, laughing, and throwing liquor bottles into a pool. When asked about it, Diddy's PR team denied everything, claiming the footage was edited and taken out of context. But by then, the clip had already spread across Reddit and Twitter. People in the industry began to ask, do the Combs heirs raised in luxury really understand the line between personal freedom and public responsibility? Rumors also swirled about Diddy's house parties, often described as private parties with no phones allowed. A former model, speaking anonymously on a podcast, revealed, "I got invited to a Diddy party. Before going in, we had to sign an NDA and lock our phones away. I didn't know why, but none of us were allowed to record anything. It didn't stop there." Christian's personal relationships were frequently splashed across the headlines. He once dated model Lori Harvey, daughter of comedian Steve Harvey, but their romance ended abruptly amid whispers that Christian partied too hard and wasn't serious. During a live stream, rapper Young Miami, Diddy's girlfriend at the time, once jokingly referred to Christian as that cute little troublemaker. It might have sounded like a lighthearted tease, but for longtime followers of the Combs family, it may have been the most honest description yet. All of these details, once dismissed as the private affairs of a celebrity family, have now become critical pieces in a much bigger puzzle. A puzzle that reveals an empire of glitz and glamour beginning to crack from within. And at the center of it, Christian Combs, once the stylish prince of hip-hop, now finds himself caught between the image he was raised to uphold and the consequences of his own actions.
I'm looking like, are those midgets? Because it's people over them, like it's people trying to hide what they're doing.
Adults who are little people, or are you talking about minors?
Am I gonna get in trouble? I don't want to say I witnessed any of that crazy stuff, but we all have common sense. Little people that's not supposed to be there.
You're talking about underage people.
It's a shame.
Is this woman, Tania, is she really saying that there were minors involved in these freak-offs?
That is exactly what she's saying, Billy.
For years, the Combs dynasty was seen as an untouchable force in the entertainment industry. Diddy, with his sharp instincts and rare business acumen, built his legacy not just through music, but by expanding into fashion, premium liquor, real estate, and reality TV. He was once hailed as the face of the Black American dream, a man who rose from nothing to become a billionaire. But now, with each new allegation, with every witness that steps forward, the glossy portrait begins to peel away. What stings the most isn't just that Diddy himself is under investigation, but that his own son, Christian Combs, is now in the crosshairs of federal prosecutors. In the world of showbiz, the worst thing isn't losing a deal, a reputation, or even money. The worst thing is losing control. And right now, both Diddy and Christian appear to be spiraling inside a storm they can no longer manage. When Christian walked out of that courtroom, pale, silent, eyes fixed ahead, many thought it was just a moment of shock. But for those familiar with how the US legal system works, it was a red flag. It could be the sign that a superseding indictment is on its way, a revised, expanded set of charges that would officially name Christian as a defendant. And if that happens, it won't just be a scandal. It'll be a lightning strike tearing through the Combs legacy, long built on control, fame, and dominance. As for Grace Markey, despite facing waves of harassment from rabid fans and toxic media outlets, she's ignited something bigger, a movement demanding transparency in the entertainment industry. Since her lawsuit, numerous other women who worked events organized by Diddy's companies have begun reaching out to her legal team. Many of them say they were once forced into silence. But now that someone has dared to speak, the wave of truth doesn't seem like it's going to stop. We've seen empires fall that once seemed untouchable: Harvey Weinstein, R. Kelly, Bill Cosby. In the end, time and truth always find a way to break through. And maybe, just maybe, the saga of the Combs family, from the hip-hop king to his young heir, will be the next chapter in Hollywood's tragic legacy, where the spotlight often hides the darkest corners. Now, the world is watching. Not to see who wins or loses, but to ask one simple question: does the truth still stand a chance in a world built on smoke and mirrors?